Hello Sunshine Seekers. How is everything looking in your corner of the world? Is the sun shining? Have the clouds parted? In Muskoka today we've had torrential rainstorms since last night, and now the clouds are blowing over to the northeast, and we have sunshine. Must be because, of course, today is week 2 of our Hello Sunshine Knit-Along. As if the sun knew. Okay, everybody, if you want to just chime in, let me know you're there, where you're knitting today. Are you outside? Are you inside? And maybe some progress reports. And I am going to show you what the Sunshine Shawl looks like, worn a few different ways, because so far you've really seen it stretched out to its full wingspan, and other than that you've just seen it on the back of this mannequin named Judy. So I am going to put it on as if I would be wearing it. Okay, so from the back, it has a beautiful length and width, and then across the front you have enough room that you can easily clasp it with a shawl pin or scrunch it up with a shawl ring, which is a round ring that doesn't require any pinning. So you could scrunch it here. And then if you feel it's a little bit too long, it's getting in the way of your elbows or your wrists, just push it up so it becomes more of a shawl collar around your neck. It gives you a little bit of warmth there. And then you can easily pin it with a shawl pin in the front. I think I've got it right. And then it's not so long at the back. So you've created a much smaller shawl. It's very versatile. Some shawls you end up knitting and they're a little bit too short and you're pulling on them and trying to stretch them when you're blocking. This one gives you more options because it is quite long and it is quite wide. So there we go. So yes, this is, hi Lori, what's it like in your corner of the world? It's a very fashionable shawl, yes. Could you imagine just showing up in a restaurant, being led to the patio for before dinner drinks wearing this? Oh my gosh, everybody would have their eyes on you. So, what is new from, hi Sharon. No, nobody's shawl will look as long as this while you're knitting it. It's just that fascinating aspect of extra fine merino. When you block it, it just goes whoosh this way and it will really grow. Just with a good soak in the Eucalan wool wash, and I actually didn't even have to pin this one. Because of that beautiful slip stitch edge, you won't have any curling or any need to pin out the points. All that is worked into the techniques in the pattern, which makes it so much easier. Hi Debbie. Is it an outside knitting day today, everybody, or an inside knitting day? Are those clouds kind of scaring you off? So this week we have restocked in the light gray. I know I mentioned last week it had sold out along with the dark gray. So that reduced our color spectrum from 9 shades to choose from down to only 7. But a couple of days ago we got more of the light gray in, and now it is here again. If you're still sitting on the fence on the shady side of town and you're not quite sure if you want to jump in and take on a new project right now, you have 8 colors to choose from. And as soon as we start getting some progress pictures posted, that might convince you that it's the project for you for late summer heading into early fall. You have to remember too that you're under no pressure to start at the beginning of the knit along, which was last Friday, or to finish at the end of the knit along. You can take your time. All the tutorials and tech tip videos will be on the event page as long as Facebook allows us to keep them there, which I don't think has any time limit. So you can access them anytime you like. Beautiful down at the dock. Oh yes, it would be. There's a nice breeze here blowing. Sunshine in Lori's corner of the world. Nice. We really had some ferocious storms. Last night I felt like I was in the middle of the Amazon without all the snakes crawling around. So I'm going to go over a few more tips for the pattern. If you have any questions today, something in the pattern that didn't seem right or you're having trouble with, then please post them in the comments. I've already had some questions sent to me on the event page in comments and also by email, so I'll try to address those. And then we have our trivia test at the end of the video, so please stay tuned. Don't turn off too quickly. You'll have a chance to win another incentive ballot. And you can also admire the lovely grand prizes over on this side. We have double prizes because the supplier of this beautiful merino plus Muskoka Yarn Connection are co-sponsoring the knit along together. So that's double the win. And then last week we had some questions about the sticky tag notes. First of all, we weren't really sure what they were called. So I went and picked up a package and I wanted to show you up close so you know what you're looking for if you are at your local dollar store. These are the little tabs that are acting like a highlighter, and we put them on our pattern page and use it as a ruler to keep track of what row we're on without actually marking up the page. So I will show you that a bit closer to the camera. And then after, I'm going to include this in the grand prize. I think that is just a nice little extra bonus that you won't have to go out and purchase. So let me bring those up closer to the camera. So there's a package of 200 of these that you can get at your dollar store in about 5 or 6 different neon colors. It's translucent, it's sticky on the left edge. You place it on your pattern wherever you want to highlight a row, and then you simply take it off and move it as many times as you need to. Eventually, when you get through the pattern, you will have to probably replace the sticky tab a few times because it will lose its grip. So that is what it looks like in the package. It's called Sticky Tag Notes. They're in the stationery aisle. They're made by Studio. Very inexpensive. Can't remember exactly. I think it was $1.25. Okay, so that is one of our favorite tips for reading patterns. The other tip we mentioned last week for reading patterns is to use a magnetic pattern reader. We have some made by Knitter's Pride, and they stand up like a nice easel. It will support your pattern page with a long magnetic ruler, and you can move that up and down instead of sticky tabs. So that will go in the grand prize. And yes, does anybody have any questions for me? Sharon, how are you doing on yours? Did you get past the little spot that you were stuck on? Okay, I will talk about carrying the color C. Yes. And it's raining in Tatamagouche. Well, it's always good to have a little bit of rain for the grass and the plants. So we've pretty much covered how to do the short rows. We are transitioning, hopefully, if you'll take the time to study in our Tech Tips video posted on the events page, we are transitioning to the German short row method instead of the traditional wrap and turn. So a few reasons for that. Basically, it's the ease of knitting. You want to be comfortable, you want the shortcut, and you want it to look very professional. So please take the time to study the German short row method and what that means in the pattern. When you come to the designated number of stitches that you knit, the pattern will say WNT, which stands for wrap and turn in your abbreviation page. That means you're going to knit that extra stitch. So for example, if the pattern says knit 2 stitches, wrap and turn, you're going to knit 2 plus the 1 stitch to replace the traditional wrap and turn. Then you're going to turn your work to the wrong side of the work, and then you'll do the wrap and turn, the German short row method, on that extra stitch. Okay, does that make sense? And so yes, we've covered page 1. I mentioned that you should be knitting with a smaller size needle. Instead of the 4mm requested, we're switching to 3.75mm because I don't think most of us can achieve the tighter tension that you need with this super bouncy extra fine merino, and also to stay within the yardage required for your main color A, which is your sun, and your color B, which is the main outline of your sun ray. So all the tech tips I have posted, there were 10 tips total up until this point. They are on the event page somewhere in the post. You just have to click on discussion and scroll down. And you'll start to see some progress pics posted there of some of the Sunshine Seekers' lovely color combos. Then on page 2, we mentioned the long tail cast on method is preferred because you're starting at the side edge and knitting across. You want to have a super stretchy edge. Please don't do the cable cast on because it is too tight. And then we mentioned the repeats. There's always a bit of clarifying from one designer written pattern to the next. Does he or she mean total number of repeats, or how many repeats plus the original one, which is in the bracket? This particular designer writes her patterns so that when she says times 5 repeats, that is the total number that you do. So 1 time in the bracket plus another 4 equals 5. So that is her method. Okay, so that was everything I wanted to point out on page 2. Page 3, which is row 6 to 25, that was, I think, pretty straightforward. Nobody had any questions about that. And the next section, which is row 26, starting the second part of the stripe down to row 45, that was pretty clear cut. That's just a repeat of what you're doing previously in a different number stitch sequence. So we will leave that. Okay, so we have had questions about stripe 2. So if you're looking at your page, which starts row 46, 47, 48, I'll just give you a second if you're looking for that page so you don't feel rushed. So at the end of row 48, you are going to be starting stripe 2, which is knit with color A, but it says don't break color B in the brackets. And it goes through telling you to pull color B through existing color A at the beginning of the row, the edge stitch, and don't knit with edge stitch with color B, just pull it through. That's basically telling you to carry it along the side of your work so you save some trouble, sewing in extra ends, and it will be woven up for this section to this section, which is about 2 or 3 inches. Unfortunately, because most of us have high contrast colors, the yellow and the turquoise are very high contrast, it's best if you cut your color B. So I tried carrying it up and it is showing. And because we're picking up stitches along that edge after, the turquoise in my case would show through. So unless you have colors such as maybe this one and the cranberry. So indigo and cranberry are not a high contrast pairing for color A and B. You could get away with carrying the yarn up the side of the work. And by carrying the yarn up the side of the work, what the designer is basically implying is that you knit a right side row, knit a wrong side row in the pattern as set, and then you take your color B and just lay it over the top of color A before you start the next row. So it's gently woven in along the edge and it doesn't leave a long loop from one color change to the next. It's going to be woven in as you go. But I think in most cases, most of us are going to have to cut it because of the high contrast issue. It just means you have an extra couple of ends to sew in for every repeat, and because it's garter stitch on this shawl, it's not a big deal. We'll go over sewing in the ends nice and neat on our last week, which will be week 4. So if you're not sure how to sew in your ends, or you want to know a more professional, neat method, please leave all the ends until week 4 and we'll have a video posted and go over it then. Okay, so just a reminder, please cut the yarn when it says stripe 2, don't break color B. Yes, you're going to break it each time. And then there was another question, if you're following down, also stripe 2 to row 3. And this was probably the only thing I came across in the pattern that really didn't make sense to me. I don't really think it's an error in the pattern. I think maybe the designer put it in there, but it wasn't necessary to put it in there. So we're going to omit it. So row 3, there is an asterisk after the make one right. And then the asterisk has an explanation at the bottom of the same page. But that does not apply to what's happening in the pattern on that row. And however many times I repeated stripe 2, it never came into play. So totally omit the asterisk. Okay, I know Sharon had a question about that. I hope that answers it for you. You'll just be following along the pattern as normal. You don't have to do anything different. You don't have to subtract stitches or add stitches. Just ignore the asterisk. And then we go through the rest of that page. At the very bottom of the page, you're going to see the section that says repeat knitting stripes 1 and 2. So you have to keep those 2 or 3 pages. I always kept them earmarked, as you can see, because those were the pages most used in the whole pattern. And I kept referring back to get myself oriented for stripe 1 and 2. Once you've done a few repeats of those stripes, you'll find it goes much more smoothly. You'll start to remember. It's almost like little landmarks, you know, when you're driving to visit somebody for the 3rd or 4th time, you start to notice landmarks along the way, and then you're like, oh yeah, I remember what I do here and where I turn here and so on. So knitting is a lot like that. Our brain starts to click after so many times, and I know it's different for everybody, but once your brain clicks in and starts to recognize something significant in the knitting, in the pattern, then you won't be staring at your pages as much. So yes, so at the bottom when it says repeat knitting stripes 1 and 2 until you have knit 11 pairs, then it says knit stripe 1 again, and you're going to follow that by the edge stripe, because of course we started with an edge stripe So we have to finish with the same. We don't want the shawl to look off balance. And then bind off all stitches loosely. That will give you 12 sun rays total. So if you're able to count across, you'll see there are 12 groupings of the sun rays, which is one for every month of the year. And then there is a side stripe at each end. Okay, and at the very end, of course, casting off, you're going to have to pick a stretchy bind off. You can do the traditional cast off, knit one, slip one over. Probably it would be wise if you used a larger size needle. So if you're on 3 3/4, you can go to 4 or 4 1/2, just for that cast off, because you want those lovely little zigzag points to form. And if you cast off too tight, that's going to flatten them out and it's hard to block them into position. So I think what we'll do again on week 4, if you can wait that long, or maybe week 3, I'm going to give you an option for another stretchy bind off or cast off that you can try. And you know, it's good to have options, right? So you can cast off your regular method, but an extra needle size up. So 4 millimeter, or if you're a bit of a tight knitter, go 4 1/2, just for the casting off row, or wait and try another method. So that is all the notes for that page. And then I think the next page, if I'm not out of sequence, is, the next page that we'll have questions about is the shawl center. The shawl center is, of course, that beautiful sunburst. I better just catch up with the comments for a minute, make sure I haven't missed any questions. Lori says, German short rows lack the wrap for the asterisk. That was my interpretation and reason for ignoring it. Yes, Lori, that's a very good point. Okay, so back to the shawl center. I don't think we'll get there until next week is week 3. Does anyone think they're going to get here by week 3? You would have to be knitting a sun ray every day, maybe 2. Is that possible? Wouldn't be possible for me. So we'll probably get to the picking up of the stitches here maybe week 4. So I do have a little tech tip and tutorial to show you the actual picking up of the stitches, so you can see where the needle goes through and then there's no confusion. But I'll just go over what it says in the pattern so you're forewarned, and then maybe some of your questions are answered. I know a lot of you read through the pattern from beginning to end, and then you maybe put question marks like I do if something doesn't make sense. So the shawl center is going to consist of picking up on the right side of the work along the top edge. The top edge is actually your right side edge when you have your right side facing, because remember, you're knitting your stripe from side to side, and then this is actually where you're changing your colors to start each new sun ray. So that's where we're picking up stitches, and we're picking it up with, of course, color A. For me it was the beautiful sunshine yellow, and they want us to make 1 new stitch in every edge stitch. So that means you're going under the 2 bars, which are created by doing that beautiful slip stitch edge. And she doesn't say how many stitches you should pick up. She just mentions 1 for every stitch. I wrote down 154. So maybe if you want to make note of that, and I will mention it again next week and the week after. So you should be picking up 154 stitches, which is 1 for every slip stitch along the edge. And then it's just a lot of plain knit rows and then some decrease rows. So there weren't really any other confusing points in that section. And then we'll go over the blocking in the last week for anyone who needs help with blocking this gorgeous shawl. Too many pairs, yes, Lori, definitely. We can only handle maybe a half sun ray a day, or we'll be wearing sunglasses 24 hours a day. So this is just a fun little thing. Something that's been coming up since the start of the knit along is how we choose our projects. So I thought I would just pose the question to you to see if you know yourself well enough when it comes to what type of knitter you are. So the question that keeps coming up is, are you a process knitter or are you a progress knitter? So if you're a process knitter, then you are generally excited about the possibility of knitting this project for the many different techniques that it involved, and for the feel and the texture of the yarn, and just enjoying how the colors, the metamorphosis of the colors. So that is meaning that you enjoy everything about the process. You're not really in a hurry to get to the finish line. You're taking your time. You're kind of in a nice zen meditative state. But if you're a progress knitter, you are the type of knitter who's very focused on the end result. You're not so much driven by the need to learn new techniques. You're happy with the knowledge that you have and your existing framework of techniques, and you're more interested in just how long is it going to take me to get to the finish line. I just want to wear it. I want to see it finished. I want to see it complete. So it'd be interesting to know how many people are process knitters and how many are progress knitters. I, of course, want to dissect myself or analyze myself, and I have to say I'm probably more a progress knitter, only because I don't really have that luxury of just sitting and really enjoying every stitch. I'm kind of focused on more deadlines, getting something finished, either as a sample in the store or to get the pattern done, the editing done, and all that. So every once in a while I do like to give myself that luxury of just being a process knitter and knit something that really has nothing too exciting about it, and I'm just enjoying the feel of the yarn. I'm actually doing something like that right now. I love the yarn. It's very plain knitting, and it's all about that tactile experience. So chime in the comments if you want to share what type of knitter you are. And then, of course, if there's any confusion about how you get ballots in the Sunshine box for the grand prize draw, which will be a live draw on week 5 of our knit along right here, Friday afternoon at 2:30. Everyone who has signed up, I have a record of your names and your contact info. So you have one ballot in the Sunshine box already. If you enlisted a friend to sign up with you or after you did, then I have a second ballot with your name on it in the Sunshine box. And then if you are one of our trivia winners in week 1, 2, 3, or 4 by answering the trivia question at the end of each check-in video, then you are entitled to another, what we call, incentive ballot. So that just doubles or triples your chances of winning. So yes, all the ballots will stay in here. They'll get shaken up, and then we'll do the grand prize draw on the 5th week, which is the extra add-on, to see who the lucky winners are of our grand prizes. And I did review them last week, in the one to the far left on your side, we have a wool winder that clamps onto a tabletop. And then we have an Earth Yarns sock kit in the gorgeous Superwash Extra Fine Merino. And there may be some little goodies underneath, which I tried to peek, but I couldn't see. And then in the prize donation from the Skokie Yarn Connection, we have a beautiful merino sheep shawl pin designed by Deborah Lyle, who is a Canadian graphic designer. And then we have 2 skeins of royal alpaca, which is a very, very high standard to achieve for any alpaca yarns worldwide. So that is a gorgeous yarn, maybe for a shawl or accessories, in a hot, hot fuchsia and I don't know what color. That's not a lime green. Chartreuse green. And then we also have a nice pack of merino sheep cards from Deborah Lyle. We have some stitch markers in there, progress keeper, knitter's bracelet, a wrist project bag. So there's lots of little goodies. And then of course we're going to throw in your full set of 200 sticky tag notes to last you a lifetime. Oh, we've got some process knitters. Process knitters are very relaxed. I mean, you're doing everything the right way. You're not rushing through a project. You're just getting in that state of mind that is similar to doing yoga or doing meditation. And of course, yes, learning new techniques along the way is all part of enjoying knitting, because, you know, if you stay with the same techniques for every project, it doesn't give you any growth and it feels a bit stale after a while. Okay, so I think what we'll do now is head on over to our trivia question, and then we can all get back to our Hello Sunshine knitting. Okay, so I'm going to read the trivia question, and of course it has something to do with sunshine. And what I need is the name of the song that the lyrics are from, and also the name of the singer or the band who performs it. They're all very well known from many generations ago. And the first person who can post in the comments the answer, so again, the name of the song and the singer, will have an incentive ballot in our draw bucket. Okay? So the lyrics are, "That's why I'll always stay around. You are the apple of my eye. Forever you'll stay in my heart." Does anybody know who the singer is and the name of the song? And you already have a clue because you know the word sunshine is going to be in there somewhere in the title and also in the lyrics. And I didn't sing it for you because that would be a complete giveaway. But it is a very well-known song. You could probably turn on a radio and hear it at least once during the day. Okay, we need the name of the song complete with the singer's name. Okay, I think we've got a winner here. Yeah. We have a winner. You Are My Sunshine, and Stevie Wonder is the singer. Congratulations to Licia Goodhue. You will have an incentive ballot into the draw bucket. And we've got some other correct guesses, but we're going to go with the first one, Licia. Okay, everybody, I hope you're enjoying your project, your knit along project so far. Please don't get frustrated. If you make a mistake and you have to start over again, that's all part of knitting. It's so rewarding in the end when you finish it. And if it feels a bit too confusing in the beginning, I promise it does get easier and it will all start to flow and you'll get into a nice rhythm. So please post some progress pics. You can use the hashtag Hello Sunshine Cal, which is K-A-L, or you can use the hashtag Sunshine Cal on Instagram or Facebook, and you can post away as many times as you like in the discussion thread on the events page. We'd love to see all your colors. There have been a few already shown with the light gray, the cranberry, the olive, also the indigo. So it's all very inspiring to see the colors as they grow. Enjoy your weekend. See you next week.